viral. It's been racing across Filipino tennis TikTok for 6 days. And here's the thing about it. The real story is bigger than that headline and quieter, and it has almost nothing to do with a chant. It has to do with a small wooden house, not a real house, a stage prop. Bad Bunny's world tour carries it with him. It's shaped like the old rural Puerto Rican homes his grandparents' generation would have known, in timber, painted, unmistakable. On the tour, it's called La Casita, the little house, and it sits at one edge of the main stage. It functions as an invite-only VIP section, but that's not what it is. What it is a symbol. Bad Bunny built his current tour, Di Ba Tirar Mas Fotoas, around the idea of a diaspora carrying its home outward. La Casita is that idea, standing upright under stage lights in whatever city he's landed in that week. On the night of Friday, July 10th, 2026, La Casita was in Stockholm. Inside it, dancing, was a 21-year-old Filipina named Eala. 5 days earlier, she had walked off center court at Wimbledon to a standing ovation. She had just lost a round of 16 match to Jasmine Paolini, 4-6, 6-4, 3-6, and the ovation was for the run itself. She had become the first Filipina in history to reach the 4th round of a Grand Slam singles tournament. As of this week's ranking release, she sits at world number 28, a new career high, and she is now the highest-ranked Filipino tennis player who has ever lived. Those are the numbers. The story is what happened in the corridor between them. Because when the clip of her on La Casita hit the internet on July 12th, the reaction inside the Filipino tennis audience wasn't uniform. Some fans wondered out loud whether a player 5 days off a slam disappointment should be at a Bad Bunny concert at all. There's a long, quiet strain in Filipino sports culture, inherited, not universal, but real, that treats non-training visibility as a warning sign. That says the correct posture after a loss is monastic. Others pushed back immediately. A quote from one ex-user, reprinted in the Manila outlet radar.ph, put it plainly, "She's 21, so yeah, Alex needs to party once in a while. Don't grow old on the tennis court. Balance is the key." And the numbers back that reader up. She flew from Stockholm to Manila the next morning. She walked into a Malacanang Palace state reception 2 days later. Her ranking rose. Her Wimbledon points held. Nothing about the concert cost her anything. If anything, it revealed something the tennis coverage had been missing. She is not a project. She is a person who happens to play at the top level of a global sport. That distinction is what the entire script from here on is going to try to hold on to. So let's walk through it, the concert, the clip, the days that followed, with the ordinary details still attached, because the ordinary details are where the meaning lives. Start with the corridor. July 6th, center court, Wimbledon. Paolini takes the third set 6-3 after Eala had led it 4-3. Eala shakes hands, waves to the crowd, and the crowd stands. Wimbledon's official account posts the clip that same afternoon with a single caption, "A standing ovation from center court. Alex Eala, Philippine flag." 4 days pass. Whatever a top 30 player does in the 4 days after a Grand Slam exit, she does. She travels. She lands in Sweden. And on the night of Friday, July 10th, she walks into Strawberry Arena in Stockholm for night 1 of Bad Bunny's world tour. Now the second point, the room she walked into, because it matters what La Casita actually is. Bad Bunny's Di Ba Tirar Mas Fotoas project, the album and the tour, is built around a specific cultural argument. It says, the diaspora is not an accident to survive. It is a home to build. The tour has been widely covered in Latin American press as one of the largest post-pandemic diaspora cultural projects in popular music. La Casita, the wooden house on stage, is the project's central image. Fans invited into it are, in a small way, invited into that argument. On the night of July 10th, one of the people standing inside it was a Filipina tennis player from a country whose overseas population numbers roughly 10.9 million people. Two peoples who know what it means to carry a homeland outward, meeting inside a wooden house on a stage in Sweden. That was the room. Third, the pull-up. At some point during the show, while Bad Bunny was performing on the La Casita platform, Eala was among the guests invited to dance with him and his crew. Multiple attendees captured it. ESPNW, Philippine Star, and the Manila Tribune all corroborate the footage. She's visible in the background of the crew in a party dress, moving in and out of frame for extended stretches of the show. She's not a plant. She's not staged. She looks, if you watch the clip honestly, like a 21-year-old at a concert. Fourth, and this is where the story tightens, is the videographer she didn't know she had. Her name is Mayumi Toribio. She's a Filipina content creator and personal trainer who was in Sweden on vacation and had happened to score tickets to the show. In an interview she gave Philippine Star Life on July 13th, Toribio described the moment she realized who she was looking at. At first I was joking, Sagu and Alex Eala look alike, because we're not used to seeing her in a party dress. She's always in tennis clothes or formal clothes. Then she recognized her. For someone who loves fashion, I was in awe of how she stood out in the crowd as this beautiful Filipina, dancing and having a great natural energy on stage. And since then, my lens never left her. And that's how, without either of them planning it, most of the footage that would circulate globally the next morning came to exist. Take a breath here, because this is the point where the story stops being about a concert and starts being about a person. The day after the concert, Alex Eala, WT a number 28, 1 week out of the Wimbledon round of 16, direct messaged Mayumi Toribio on Instagram to ask if she could use the clips. Toribio, in the same Philippine Star Life interview, described the tone of the message. She said it sounded like a friend from home. Her tone just sounded like a barkada, you know. It was warm and youthful. Barkada is a Tagalog word. It means group of close friends, chosen family, the crew you grew up with. And that's the whole story, that single word. Because everything after that moment, the trending clip, the homecoming at NAIA the next day, the presidential citation at Malacanang the day after that, the DC Open coming up in 2 weeks, everything downstream depended on the person still being that reachable, still being the kind of 21-year-old who DMs a stranger the morning after a concert and sounds like a friend. That is what the clip captured without knowing it was capturing it. She posted her own TikTok compilation later that day, stitched together with Toribio's shots. The caption was in Spanish. She trained her formative tennis years in Mallorca, so Spanish is functionally her third language. After English and Tagalog, she didn't translate it, she let it stand. Mientras uno está vivo, uno debe amar lo más que pueda. While one is alive, one must love as much as one can. She left it there, untranslated for whoever was ready to read it in whatever language they had. By the next day, July 12th, the clip had traveled. It surfaced on ESPNW's social feeds, on Cosmopolitan Philippines, on Latin American Bad Bunny fan pages, on Filipino tennis TikTok, on European entertainment pages tracking the tour. The Manila outlet Radar.ph captured the strangest part of the coincidence in a single sentence. Eala trended twice in one day in two very different moments, one abroad, one back home. Because on that same July 12th, while the Stockholm clip was still circulating, Alex Eala landed at Manila's international airport to a hero's welcome. Flowers, officials, fans. The Philippine Star and Sunstar Davao both covered it. The tennis player who had been on Bad Bunny's stage the night before was now walking through arrivals being handed bouquets by strangers. The day after that, Sunday, July 13th, she was inside Malacanang Palace. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. hosted a formal reception titled Tagumpay Nating Lahat, which translates roughly to, "This victory belongs to all of us." He conferred a presidential citation. In his speech, he called himself, in his own words, a fan. And then he said something the room noticed. He said, "You never fail to remind everyone that you are a Filipina. You never fail to do that." That is the second authority voice this script needs to sit with, and it is the harder one, because it comes from a head of state and it has to be handled without editorializing. So take the line for what it is, a formal state acknowledgement that the country understood what the last week had been about, not the ranking, not the concert, the visibility itself, the reminding. The first authority voice, the one this script trusts more, is Toribio's, because Toribio was in the room. Toribio saw the moment before it was a moment, and Toribio's line about the barkada tone is the one that stays. In her Philippine Star Life interview, she also said something else at the end that reads now almost like a mission statement. The best content isn't always planned. Sometimes it's simply being ready when the moment happens. That sentence describes the videographer's job. It also accidentally describes what Eala did in Stockholm. She wasn't planning to be on that stage. She was ready when the moment happened. Zoom out. Because the stakes here are wider than one concert. Alex Eala, at world number 28, is now the first Filipino tennis player in history to occupy an automatic seeding position for the hardcourt U.S. Open Series. That means she doesn't have to qualify. That means she has direct entry with seeding protection into the Canadian Open in Montreal, into the Cincinnati Open, into the U.S. Open itself in late August. Her Wimbledon run also erased a set of numbers that had stood since the amateur era. The last Filipino players to reach the third round at Wimbledon were Felicissimo Ampon, Raimundo Dairo, and Cesar Carmona, with their runs stretching between 1948 and 1953. That's 73 years of ceiling, cleared in a single fortnight, and she's 21. That last detail is important, because whatever the ceiling was, she's still standing under it. She hasn't hit the top of anything yet. Her next confirmed appearance is the Mubadala City DC Open, a combined ATP WTA 500 event in Washington, D.C., running from July 27th through August 2nd. She's on the singles entry list. The WTA official tournament page lists her. It will be her first competitive match after the Wimbledon run, after Stockholm, after Malacanang, after the fan meet at Glorieta on July 15th that drew crowds pressed against velvet ropes. She will walk onto a hard court in Washington, and it will be, again, an ordinary tennis match. A first-round draw, a warm-up, a serve. The rest of it, the concert, the citation, the flowers at arrivals, will be behind her, which brings the script back to the loss, because none of the last week erases the fact that she was up a break in the third set against Paolini and lost her serve at 4-3 to lose the last 3 games straight. The ESPN match report by Miguel Alfonso Caramoan describes the sequence with almost clinical care. After Paolini surged to knot 40 on Eala's serve earlier in the second set, Eala reeled off 5 straight points and held for 5-3. That was the version of her that had beaten Swiatek 2 rounds earlier. That was the version that arrived. And then in the third, the reverse happened. The small margins tipped the other way, and she couldn't turn them back. She walked off center court to a standing ovation. Wimbledon posted the Philippine flag, and 5 days later, she was in Stockholm, dancing. So here is where the script lands. Look at the rooms she has been in over the last 12 days. Center court, Wimbledon, standing ovation, La Casita, Stockholm, Bad Bunny stage, Manila airport arrivals, flowers, welcome home, Malacanang Palace, presidential citation, Tagumpay nating lahat, Glorieta Activity Center, fan meet, phones held up in every direction. And in 2 weeks, a hard court in Washington, D.C., under floodlights, no crowd chanting her name in Tagalog, no wooden house on the stage, just a court and an opponent and a serve. She is walking through rooms that no Filipino athlete before her has been invited into. And inside every one of those rooms, based on every verified account we have, she is still the same person who direct messages a stranger to ask if she can borrow their footage and does it in a tone that reads like a friend from home. Barcada, Toribio said. That word is doing more work in this story than any ranking number can. That's the room she's in now, not a number, not a title, a range. And she chose, in the caption she posted from all of it, not to translate. Mientras uno está vivo, uno debe amar lo más que pueda. While one is alive, one must love as much as one can. Leave it in Spanish. She did. If this is your first time on the channel, we cover the WTA Tour with the Filipino diaspora in mind. The wins, the losses, and the weeks like this one where the story lives in the rooms and not the results.